All right, it's 5 o'clock, so I'm going to continue admitting people. We're going to be streaming this to Facebook Live. So no, it's just going to the Tailored Learning Supports Facebook page. So that is like for those who have only liked that page, so it's not public. And we also want to encourage everyone to have whatever you need to be comfortable in learning, whether that is your ginger ale, your water, like Savannah, your stuffed polar bear collection, your fur babies. We welcome everybody and everything. So, how is everybody doing? Are you cozy this winter?
Very
Feel feel free too. I should have mentioned that we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. So feel free to use the chat box and post questions. Feel free to email me at the link at the email you received the registration link from, and I'll be collecting those questions in order to have our guest experts with them or share the answers of those questions. I'm just letting a few more people in. My name is Megan. I am a national board certified teacher. And hi everybody. I own my own company, Tailored Learning Supports for Families, where I get to work with amazing teachers and connect them. Hi, Edith. I get to connect them to kids. So today we are going to be doing something so cool and so exciting. We're going to be talking about Arctic animals. So I'm going to be sharing my screen and I'm going to tee us up for a really fun event. Also, just want to start by saying hi, Leticia and Savannah, our guest experts. Feel free to take your microphone off mute and show them some love. Woo!
Hey everyone.
Hello.
Showing the love. You two are great.
We also welcome you if you have a question, just to go ahead and unmute your microphone. This is really informal and we want this to be fun and engaging for the kids as well. So feel free just to pop in with questions. So welcome families. This is a culminating event for our Florence Downtown Story Walk. It's a tiny little town in Western Massachusetts, and 24 businesses throughout downtown got together and each posted a picture and a page of Jan Brett's new book, Cozy. And it was all about a muskox who lived in Alaska and all his cozy friends. So that got us thinking. We want to know more about these animals that live in Alaska and the Arctic. So we located two really awesome and amazing educators, scientists, learner, experts to help us understand a little bit about this environment that is so different from where most of us live. Also want to thank our sponsors. So I was mentioning earlier, I run an organization that helps connect teachers and families for private teaching, academic consulting, and tutoring. Um, and yeah, there's our story walk. I guess I put it twice. I'm also really excited before I hand things over to Leticia and Savannah. Thanks to those people who made donations. The Arctic Angels is a group you'll learn a little bit more about, but they are girls and women age 8 to 30 who care deeply about saving the Arctic. And we were able to raise $85 for them through your donation. So thank you to those who did donate. And thank you for everyone for being here. And again, just want to encourage you to post your questions in the chat box or write them down on a piece of paper, and then you can ask them at the end. And we have got some great questions already so far. So I'm going to take us off screen share and I'm going to turn it over to our guest experts. Guest experts.
Okay, well, I'm going to share my screen now. Already went through those. Okay, go ahead, Mom.
Okay, so Global Choices, Arctic Angels is under Global Choices, which is an intergenerational global group. Intergenerational meaning all ages, so all generations. And it's a group of women that are inspired to drive action on the ice crisis, and especially focusing on the Arctic and the Antarctica global commons. So when Megan called us, we were so excited to join, to know that a lot of people were interested in learning about Arctic animals, and we wanted to share. So I am the education consultant for Global Choices. My name is Leticia. I live in Colorado in the Rocky Mountains, and I'm also a teacher. And my daughter is actually an Arctic Angel, Savannah, and she'll tell you a little bit more about the Arctic Angels, and she lives in Alaska, and which she will share with you too.
Hi guys, nice to meet you all and thanks for joining. My name is Savannah, and like my mom said, I live in Alaska, currently in Anchorage, and I'm going to graduate school. So as an Arctic Angel, we're part of a youth-led intergenerational action network. So it's just young women ranging from ages 9 to 30 coming together all over the world to protect our environment. So all these different women in this program have different specialties. So some focus on wildlife and forests, some on oceans, and my focus is on food systems. So talking about how what we eat impacts the environment and how we grow our food impacts our environment, which also impacts the animals that also rely on this food. So since I moved here in August and since living here, I'll show you a picture of where I am because not everyone knows where Alaska is. If you can see this image, the lower 48 where most people live is down here, and Alaska is quite far away in red all the way up here. So I'm in Anchorage, which you can see circled there in red, and it's about 500 miles south of the Arctic Circle. But a lot of the animals that we have here can also be found above the Arctic Circle in the Arctic. So I'm going to talk about the animals that I've seen and that I've encountered. And you can kind of see in these two pictures, this was on a flight that I took, what the environment's like here. So tons of ice, really big mountains, very cold. So the animals that live here are really tough, and we're gonna talk more about them and what they do and how they live. So starting with moose, there's a ton of moose in Alaska, and it's probably the most common animal that I see. I usually see, if you're looking for them, you can see about one a day, if not more. They're really big, so they can be 800 to 1,600 pounds, which is really heavy. You definitely don't want to get sat on by a moose. They're usually about 6 feet tall from their hooves to their shoulders, so that's not including their heads or their antlers, which their antlers alone can be 6 feet spanned across. The males, which is on this left side here, are called bulls, and the females are called cows, and then the babies are called calves. So they typically eat foods like willow, birch, aspen twigs, and then in the summer and spring, they might also eat some of the leafy greens, but mostly they're just eating the sticks. Like I said, their antlers can grow really big. They can weigh 70 pounds, and they can take like about 5 months to develop before they shed them. They fall off their heads. It doesn't hurt them in January and December, and then they start regrowing again. So here's a couple more pictures that we took. This was one moose we saw on the side of the road, and something that I learned since living here is that if a moose's ears are up, like the one on the left, it usually means that they're curious, but you still don't want to approach them because they are so big, they can hurt you, maybe accidentally, or if they feel threatened. If their ears are back, like the one on the right, it can mean that they are aggressive. So you definitely don't want to approach a moose like that. And especially if it's a mama moose with a baby, they're going to want to protect their babies. So be careful. Like I said, they are everywhere, especially at night. So you also want to be careful when you're driving, not to hit them. One kind of funny story to share, my boyfriend also lives in Alaska here, and he was out skiing the other day. And it was dark outside, and a moose popped out in front of him and he hit him on his skis. So like I said, luckily he's okay and the moose is okay. But like I said, you want to be careful since they're everywhere. Watch out where you're going and don't get too close, but you can enjoy them from afar. Okay, next I'm going to talk about bears. So there are 3 different types of bears that live in Alaska. So that's the grizzly or brown bear, the black bear, and the polar bear. So grizzly bears and black bears are what I have seen in Anchorage, and then polar bears usually live further up north where that more ice is in the Arctic. This picture on the left is a picture of my puppy with a sign seen in the park next to our house. So like I said, again, you want to be really careful when you're walking out because there's so many animals here. This is their home before it was ours. So we want to be respectful of them and make sure we're not endangering ourselves or harming the animal or the environment. So grizzly bears are one of the biggest bears. The males are called boars, the females are called sows, and the babies are called calves. So they can be up to 1,500 pounds, which again is huge. And then when they're standing up, they can be about 8 feet tall. In short bursts, they can run 40 miles an hour, which is faster than sometimes when you're in a car. They're really good swimmers and diggers, but not very good at climbing trees, which is interesting. Unlike black bears are really good tree climbers. And they hibernate 8 months of the year. They usually eat foods like salmon, berries, grasses, small mammals like squirrels, and then sometimes human food or garbage if we're not careful and we leave it out. So always be careful, especially when you're hiking or camping, to be bear aware. And then to talk about the black bears a little bit, those are smaller. They're usually like 200 to 350 pounds, 29 inches tall. And they also eat similar things, plants, nuts, insects, salmon, and small mammals. And they're the most common bear in North America. And they've been reported in every single state except Hawaii. So maybe some of you guys have seen a black bear before. Next, my mom's going to talk about polar bears.
Yeah, and if you've seen a bear before, make sure you put it on your chat so we see what kind of bear you've seen before. So first of all, Savannah, will you introduce your bears in the background?
Oh yeah, these are my bears who came, they wanted to come to the story walk too. This is Glenn, this is Ghost, and this is Casper.
And one of them's actually from the Arctic, well, 2 of them are from the Arctic Circle, right? Or all 3 of them from the Arctic Circle?
No, they're all from the Arctic Circle. This one is from Anchorage, and then these 2 came from where you visited, Mom.
Yeah, and so where I got to go, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that, was actually, and I'll show you a map in a second. It's in the Arctic Circle, and I saw lots of polar bears. And actually, polar bears and grizzly bears are the most dangerous bears in the world. And so the polar bears are actually called the king of the Arctic food chain, and they're huge, and they're the largest land carnivore. That means they love meat. And like Savannah said, they get really big. And their Happy Meal, like McDonald's, because they can't go to McDonald's, but their Happy Meal in the ocean are ring seals, which we'll talk about in a little while too. And these guys are great swimmers. They can swim really fast, and they've been known to swim more than 125 miles without rest when they're looking for food. And sadly, because of the climate change, they have to swim lots more miles looking for food. But these guys, they have a great nose and a sense of smell, and they can smell seals nearly a mile away. And one cool fun fact that I found, if you shave a polar bear all his fur off, that he actually has black skin underneath. And I thought that was really cool. And his fur is actually hollow too. So like lots of little straws on there. And most bears live about 18 years, but some they've recorded that they've gone up to 30 years old. So if you look here though, you think they're all cute and cuddly like Savannah stuffed bears over there. But actually, if you see this guy right here, he's got a rifle and he's on the lookout for polar bears because they're very, very dangerous. Like I said, that they're the most dangerous bear in the world. And here's a sign, and it talks right here. It says to watch out for polar bears. So if you have polar bear questions, you guys make sure and put them on the chat because we'd love to talk to you about the polar bears.
Okay, next, this is our last slide specific to Anchorage. We're going to talk about fish because fish are really important to the ecosystem. It's a main food source for a lot of the bears that we just talked about, as well as the lots of the people living here. So Alaskan natives and other people who have moved here rely on fish as a food source. So there's 5 main species of salmon in Alaska, that being the Chinook or the king salmon, the chum salmon, silver salmon, pink salmon, and the sockeye or the red salmon. So if you see in this first photo on the left of the water, if you look really closely in the water, you can see all the fish moving up. So the salmon run in the rivers, which means they are going like quickly upstream in the rivers throughout the summer, different types of salmon throughout different times of the year. So this one in the picture is a silver salmon. In the middle picture is a trout. So that one's a rainbow trout. And these are actually my brothers. We got to go ice fishing, but we let these ones go, so don't worry. They were able to swim away happy. And then in the picture on the right is an Arctic char. So that's just a few examples of the fish living there. But like I said, there's 436 different species. So lots of different fish. And you guys can text write in the chat box if you've ever been fishing or what type of fish you've seen, or maybe a favorite fish of yours.
And like I was saying, Savannah's really lucky. She gets to live in Arctic and see moose every day outside her door and all kinds of wild animals. And I got to go to the Arctic 2 summers ago, and it was only for a couple weeks. And so, but I want to share with you the animals I got to see. And if you look on this world map, right above there is Svalbard, which is the most northern place where people live on the earth closest to the North Pole. And there's about 2,000 people live there, and it's not very many, but we took a big boat, and you can see here in this picture, and we got to go around towards the North Pole. We actually stopped. If you look at a globe and you see all the latitude lines, it's on the 80-degree north line. We got to stop there, which is about 500 to 600 miles from the North Pole. And we didn't make it to the North Pole. Would have loved to have been up there and see Rudolph, but we didn't make it all the way up there. But it was very cool. But it's like there's no people. I saw no other people except the people on our boat the whole time we were there. And I just saw a lot of animals, which I'm going to share with you in a second. So the first animals we saw were, I'm not sure which one was our first animals on the slide. I was like, oh, I'm not sure which ones we saw first. Was Santa's reindeer. And Santa's reindeer is so cool because I learned so much. First of all, they were everywhere. And their fur changes during if it's winter and there's lots of snow, they're more white. And then as it gets summer, it changes to a kind of a brownish color. And they're actually, this subspecies in this area that I was at are the smallest reindeer in the world. Boys and girl reindeers, they both have antlers. However, the boys lose their antlers in November, around November, while the female or the girls lose theirs in June. And therefore, Santa's reindeers are all girls because they all have antlers, right? And so I thought that was the coolest thing I learned about reindeer, that Santa's reindeer were girls. Yay. So also another cool thing about reindeers I learned is they have hair in their nose to the bottom of their hooves, their feet. And these hairy hooves, they might look funny, but they're kind of like, Savannah, what do they call it where you put it on your shoes?
Yak tracks, or the shoe spikes.
Yeah, the shoe spikes that we put on our shoes, that's what they have on their hooves. And it helps them to get a good grip when they're walking across frozen ground and snow and mud. And they're very friendly and very social. So they like to travel together in groups. And they're vegetarians, so good for climate change there. And they run really fast, like 45 miles per hour. That's really fast. So like what your car goes on the way to school, hopefully.
That means they can outrun a black bear or a grizzly bear. That's pretty impressive.
It is. They're pretty impressive animals. So those were some of my favorite ones to see. So the next animals we saw were whales. So we saw lots of different kinds of whales. So right here on this side, you'll see this is a humpback whale. And I always thought they had teeth, but they're actually not teeth. They just have these little plates and they eat tiny little krill, which are like little shrimp. And so they resemble teeth, but they're not. And these creatures or whales, they love to jump out of the water, and it's called breaching. And they would swim so close to the ship and they'd show off. And they also love to sing whale songs. And they're super long, like 60 feet long. So that's huge when you think that, like, I'm 5 feet. So it's like 12 of me laying on the ground, and they were just, or 120, sorry. I was like 12 feet, 12 of me, right? Is that right? I'm like, not, doing math here. Anyway, their flippers grow up to 16 feet. And one really cool thing about them is the tail of each humpback whale is very unique, like our fingerprints. So each tail is different and it's special to them. And then they have two, if you can blow this up, but you can't, I know, but they have two holes here on the top, two blowholes on top of their heads. And so one of the cool things that they do is called bubble net fishing. And that's where a group of humpback whales swim around their prey in a circle and they blow bubbles around their prey in order to have the fish come into a tight ball so they all can grab them. Now these guys, beluga whales, we saw a group of them too, and they are called sea canaries, like the birds, because they love to sing too. And these guys, I learned they can swim backwards and they can move their head all different directions. And they dive really deep. They can stay underwater for like 25 minutes. And they were really fun to see too. And Savannah, you got to see some of these guys in Alaska, didn't you?
Yeah, the first week that I moved here, we were able to see Anchorage is also on the coast. So we've got mountains on the east of us, and then to the west of us is the ocean. So we got to see some beluga whales. They're a bit far from the shore, but it was really cool to see that right when we moved here.
And then this is a whale I did not get to see, but I wished so bad, called the narwhal. And the narwhals, they are called the unicorns of the sea. You can see why. And these tusks are actually a giant tooth, and they grow up to 10 feet long. And it's only the males that have this, and they love to eat shrimp and cod and halibut, different kinds of fishes. And they're related to the beluga whale, and they like to dive deep. They actually go almost 5,000 feet deep. So they're amazing swimmers. And I like that their tusks, it helps them find food and girl narwhals too. But it also has, they can hit the fish and it kind of stuns them like a stun gun and helps them catch their fish. So here I am with my friend, and we had narwhal hats. I couldn't find my narwhal hat. I was going to wear it today, but we had narwhal hats and we jumped in the Arctic Ocean. It was super cold. We were hoping to see narwhals and we thought our hats might help us to find one, but we never got to see one. But they live up there and they're pretty cool whales too. Now, if you've seen a whale, make sure and type in what kind of whale you've seen or your favorite whale you'd like to see.
Okay, next we're going to talk about an Arctic fox. So these guys are really cute, I think, and they're pretty small. They're about the size of a cat. So if you have a cat at home, that would be how big they are. But they're probably a lot tougher than your cat. So their fur can keep them warm in -70 degrees Celsius, which is -90 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty dang cold. Their fur also changes colors in the season, just like the reindeer. So in the summer, they'll be this gray, brown color. And then in the winter, they grow a really thick white coat. It helps them blend in and hide from their predators. So they live in burrows. So they dig down deep and tunnel really extensive tunnels and live in there. They also store food in there for the winters. So they'll eat things like rodents, birds, insects, eggs, sometimes berries if they can find them, and reptiles and amphibians too. Addie from Massachusetts had asked a question, what is an Arctic fox's favorite food? And I believe it would be a lemming, which is a type of rodent. It looks kind of like a mouse or a hamster. So a little snack for them. And then Addie also asked, do they get along with cats? And I was trying to look around for this. I'm not sure an Arctic fox has ever seen a house cat, but foxes down in the lower 48 have been known to chase cats like dogs. But they're about the same size, so I don't know if they would get along or not.
So it gets to walruses and seals, and these were really fun to see. So this guy right here, this walrus, he has lots of blubber. You see all this blubber there? If you have blubber, you can grab your blubber right now. Well, that helps him keep warm when temperatures are way behind freezing. And both boys and girls, the walruses, have tusks. And they also use their whiskers to help find food. And they weigh as much as a car, like 3,000 pounds. They're huge. And they're very social. You see, we would see them as we were walking along the shore, and they were in groups, and they like the male walruses like to hang out with male, female walruses hang out with the female walruses. So they're very social and like to hang out together on the shores. Then we have these seals, and these are the bearded seals. Why do you think they're called bearded seals? You see this? It looks like a beard on an older person, right? That's why they're called the bearded seals. They're the biggest seals in the Arctic. And they make this trill sound that can be heard up to 12 miles away for as long as 3 minutes. And they mostly live on floating ice or under it. So see, this is an actual picture I took when I was kayaking, and he is actually on this piece of floating ice. And then sometimes they sleep in the water with their body, but their head is on the top so they can breathe. So it's vertically in the ocean, and their heads are just above the surface. And then when they're underneath the ice, they'll make breathing holes by pushing their heads through the thin ice. Now they're opposite of these guys. They like to stay alone and by themselves, but guess what? That makes them polar bears' favorite food because they're by themselves. So the polar bears will come up and they can easily catch them because they're by themselves. Polar bears also like to eat walruses, but they're harder because they're with groups. So these guys were pretty cool to see. And finally, the last animals I wanted to share with you that I saw were puffins. Some of you guys have seen these guys. They're beautiful birds. They're called sea parrots because of their colorful beaks. And now these beaks, it was in the summer, so they were pretty colorful, but in the winter they turn gray. And these guys are awesome swimmers. If you ever have a chance to see a video on them swimming in the ocean, they look like they're flying and it's in the ocean. Now they can't really fly in the air, but they're great swimmers. And they can swim up to 200 feet down. And they also, I think this is a really cool fact, they have a mate for life. So they have the same boyfriend or husband for life or wife for life. So they stay with the same person. The same person, the same bird, the same puffin. Then the Arctic tern, I have to tell you, was my favorite bird of all times. And this is why I thought they were so cool. They started in the summer, they're in the Arctic. That's when I saw them. I was there in June. They're in the Arctic. But what they do is they follow the sun. So in the winter, they fly all the way down to the Antarctic and follow the sun because that's their summer down there. And so then they'll fly back and they migrate to these areas and they spend the winter here and then the summer here. And the distance is about 60,000 miles. And these little guys live to be like 30 years old. So that means these tiny birds fly so many miles, they can actually, that if you added it all up together, it would be like they were flying to the moon 3 or 4 times, the moon and back 3 or 4 times in their lifespan. And these guys are so lightweight. If you get 20 quarters tonight and go look for all your quarters and you put 20 in your hand, that's how much this little bird weighs. And yet he flies all that every single year. And I think that's pretty amazing. So while we got to see all these amazing wildlife, and like I said, we hardly saw any other people or didn't see any other person except those on the boat. While we were walking, we collected all this trash. And as you can see, and this is where nobody lives. So how did all this trash get here? Well, that's where we come in. There's a lot of human interaction. So maybe if I throw something here in Colorado, it goes into the oceans, it goes from the rivers to the oceans, and then the currents take it up there. And it's really sad because it affects these animals up there. And not only the wild plants and stuff, but also the animals. So Savvy, do you ever see that in your area?
Yeah, it's very sad. We have a lot of trash here too. So even though there's less people and more wildlife up in Alaska, we're still impacted by pollution and trash. So I would encourage all of you guys to think about how you can take care of the environment and what you can do to protect the plants and animals that live here. If you have ideas or want to share, please write it in the chat box. And make sure you pick up the think about the animals whenever you throw things away, and encourage your friends to do the same. If you guys have any other questions, that's about it for our presentation. But if you have questions about the Arctic Angels, Global Choices, or Alaska, please reach out to us separately. But if you guys have questions about animals now, we can go ahead and answer those. So I'm going to stop my screen sharing so we can see all your guys' faces.
And if anyone's interested in the Arctic Angels too, no matter what age you are, female, male, please let us know too, because we can send you more information on that too.
Awesome. We got a couple questions ahead of time, some really amazing questions. This one was a particular favorite. How do animals in the Arctic have their babies when it is so cold?
Yes, so I can answer that one. No matter, it doesn't really matter where you live, the animals usually adapt to be able to survive there. So for example, if you had, say, like a human baby went to the Arctic, they would probably freeze their bums off. It would be way too cold for them to live up there. But baby polar bears are born with a ton of extra blubber. So they have like 10 centimeters thick worth of blubber and another 15 centimeters of fur. So the baby polar bears are able to survive until they grow up enough to create enough body heat. So.
Thanks, Savannah. I do have a couple more questions that were emailed ahead of time, but I also want to make space for those who are in the room and might want to pick up their microphone. So for any of our amazing young scientists or their furry owl or bear friends, if you'd like to pick up the microphone and ask a question, go ahead and do that. I invite you to, but no pressure if you don't want to.
We'd love to hear your voices.
I like their stuffies. Mine came to say hi too.
What's your stuff? Harper, is that your snowy owl? What's your snowy owl's name?
Snow.
No, Snow, what a good name.
Lisa, what's yours name?
It's Sylvie.
Sylvie.
She's a baby polar bear, and she's really jumpy, just like me.
I love that.
I lounge in my closet.
Wow.
Do you have a stuffed animal with you? Just stuffed animal.
Don't see any other stuffed animals out here yet. If you have a stuffed animal, show us your stuffed animal.
I also want to show them Butter, my really favorite one.
Well, I invite you still to pick up the microphone or show your stuffy. And Savannah and Leticia, I'll go ahead with one of our other questions that we were emailed earlier. And there were also some great ones in the chat box. Why are penguins such good swimmers?
Okay, well, I'll answer that one. First of all, penguins, they live in the South Pole. So the North Pole is what we're concentrating on today in the Arctic. So there was no penguins I saw in the Arctic because they all live down south. And Savannah, I'm sure you won't see a penguin unless it's in a zoo there too.
Yep, no penguins up here.
So, but I can answer that question, and Savannah could probably jump in too. They have like really thick feathers, and that helps them.
Her computer is kind of blurry. Savannah's is really, really.
My computer? Let me see if I can fix it. Maybe if I, that probably made it worse. Savannah, you want to keep talking and I'll fix, I don't know how to fix that, huh?
It's okay if you maybe turn other way.
I'll like turn.
Oh, I don't know if that helped. It's okay. You can keep talking.
Okay. Oh, this is better. Maybe this is better. So anyway, so the penguins have these feathers that are really stiff and they don't let air through them. So it's like a big paddle, and that helps them swim faster. And they also have lots of blubber too, so that helps them. So afloat.
I see a lot more stuffed animals come out. I think that's a narwhal. And I saw Bo had maybe a husky. And I also see Edith. What do you have? A duck. Cute. I love all the stuffies.
Elodie, I see that you asked a really great question in the chat box. Do you want to pick up the microphone and ask it, or do you want me to read it for you?
You try. We have quite a crowd here. This is Nari the narwhal. And I'm going to help Elodie out. She's feeling a little shy. So she's wondering, what do beluga whales eat?
Ooh, good question. Well, I know they eat octopus and different little fishes and
Like my mom said, octopus, also squid, sometimes crabs and shrimp, clams, and then also I read once sandworms, which I'm not exactly sure what a sandworm is, but apparently beluga whales like them. Oh, and they also eat fish, of course. So like salmon, like the ones I talked about, cod, flounder, and herring too. So they eat quite a lot of stuff, but all seafood.
oh,
These are
Lily, I see you have a stuffed animal too. Is that a narwhal?
Oh, I love that cute little narwhal.
What's your narwhal's name?
Um, I don't know.
You don't know yet? Maybe you can think of a name. Maybe other people can help you think of a name. If you have a good name for Lily's narwhal, you can put it on the chat box.
Oh, and I'm Caitlin.
Oh, Caitlin, sorry. Sorry, I thought it was Lily for a second. Caitlin, sorry, Caitlin.
These are such really great questions. So our next question is a moose related question. And I have to say, when I moved to New England 6 years ago, we see these signs that say caution moose crossing. And out of 6 years, I've only seen a moose one time. And I was so excited. I laughed and cried and screamed all at the same time. So I don't even know what it'd be like to see them like every day, like you, Savannah. But this question was, do moose like people?
So, I think it depends probably where you are. In Anchorage, I think since they're so used to living around people, I would say that I don't know. I guess they like people, but probably from a distance. Again, like I said, if you get too close or if you like approach them too quickly, or if they have animals or spook them, they might be scared of you and feel threatened. But in general, I think that they live pretty well with us, especially because we're so close to the mountains and they come down and use our trails a lot. So whenever a moose is walking through, the snow can get really, really deep here. And if a moose has a hard time walking through it, they might just step on a man-made trail and it makes walking easier for them. So yeah, we've learned to live together for sure.
Next question. Do cats and polar bears like each other?
That's a good question. So polar bears definitely would probably love to have a cat as a dessert. But I don't think they would get along. Well, the cats, they love to eat meat, polar bears, and usually they eat seals like we talked about in walruses, but if they get hungry, they would eat anything else. So cats probably don't want to be around polar bears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Glenn told me earlier he's never seen a cat, so he wouldn't know.
I see Harper's hand is raised. Harper, and you have a new stuffy.
Her name is Butter. She's my favorite stuffed animal.
Oh, hi, Butter. Thanks for joining us.
And my question is, what do Snowy's owls eat?
I believe they eat little rodents. So like the same thing as the Arctic fox, like the little lemmings, which are like mice. They also eat sometimes rabbits, birds, like smaller birds, and then fish too. Do you think your owl would like to eat that?
They eat their favorites, lemmings too, isn't it, Savannah? The same as the Arctic fox.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I feel like lemmings are on the menu for a lot of animals.
Poor lemmings.
Someone in the chat box, Leticia, was asking how you ended up getting to go to the Arctic.
Oh, that's a great question. Thanks.
And after you answer that, Mom, it looks like Edith has a question too, but go ahead.
Okay, so, well, I was really honored to be chosen as a teacher because they chose teachers, Lindblad Expeditions, which is, they have those big boats I showed you, and National Geographic got together and they chose 40 teachers from around the world. They chose 40 teachers from around the world to go on different parts of their research teams and expeditions to learn outside of the classroom so that when teachers come back, they could share their experiences like I am with you guys. And so that's what they do for teachers. So I was really honored to be able to do that 2 summers ago. So I still get to do some work for National Geographic now, and they're just a great organization, and so is Lindblad. So they still do that every year. So if you know your teacher's interested, you can tell her to talk to Megan and she'll send them to me and I can help them to do that too. Oh, I see Edith's hand up there. Edith, can you unmute yourself?
I was wondering what a black bear's favorite food is.
Yeah, so black bears eat a lot of different things, but I would say their favorite food is probably berries because they get a lot of those. Plus, they're super sweet and yummy. But they also eat fish, so like salmon up here in Alaska. They can eat insects, and then other plants like grasses and roots too. They dig in the ground for roots. Have you seen a black bear before, Edith? Or any bear?
My dad is up in the mountains, so I've seen a grizzly bear.
Whoa, that's cool. That's really cool.
I see that Ethan's hand is raised. Ethan, do you have a question? Hi, Ethan.
Hi. My question was, how do walruses how do they breathe underwater? Like, how do they survive underwater?
Well, like I said, so they have to come up for air. So they put their head up, even when they're sleeping, they have to come up for air, and they might have their head above like this on the water and their body would be underneath, and they have to and even when they swim underwater or under the ice, they have to pop their head and make little breathing holes.
But they can't hold their breath for about 10 minutes. So pretty long time. I can't hold my breath that long. Can you?
But that's what makes the polar bears can catch them, because the polar bears know they have to come up for air. So it makes it kind of hard. But yeah, it's a good question. See any other hands up? But I am so excited. You guys are all interested in Arctic animals. Has everyone read the book Cozy? Raise your hand if you read the book.
Oh. Harper has her hand up too for a question, I think.
Oh, yay. Harper, you have another question?
What are bearded seals' favorite food?
Oh, let's see. Well, bearded seals, they like fish and all kinds of fish. And I'm trying to think of what their favorite fish is, though.
I know that they eat cod, and they also eat like shrimp, crabs, clams. So again, like all sorts of seafoods. But I think cod is probably their favorite food.
Well, most of these animals love fish. Do you guys like fish? Oh, good. You could be an Arctic animal.
Harper says no.
Yeah.
I only like salmon. No, wait. Salmon and shrimp.
Those are two of my favorites too, Ethan.
Be a good bear, Ethan. What is a grizzly bear, right?
2 more questions from earlier to take us home. Those questions are, how far do salmon travel? And are whales friendly to kids?
So the salmon one, I know it depends on the species, but some have been known to travel 2,000 miles, which is pretty dang far. So they'll move depending on the season and for mating too.
And then on whales, so most of the time whales, they can be dangerous, but usually it's really rare for anyone to have been hurt by a whale. And you've even heard about whales helping people. And so they tend to be, they don't like, you know, to be with people or in close proximity of people. But I wouldn't consider, like, there are times like when you go on some expeditions where they would let you pet them, but it's really unusual, you know, because they are in the wild. But generally they're not, while they can be dangerous, there's hardly any situations where they've hurt a human. So I would say they're friendly. What do you say, Savannah?
Yeah, I think so. I think probably a lot of whales have never met humans because they live so far out in the ocean. But yeah, I would agree with that. I also saw one other question in the chat box. It says, during the birth of baby bears, are the moms awake? So the bears give birth whenever they're hibernating, so generally in like February. And the moms actually, even though they're hibernating, they'll wake up, give birth, and then go back to sleep with their little bears. And Harper, did you have another question?
How are whales dangerous?
Say that again. What did she say?
How are whales dangerous?
That's a good question. So I don't think they probably aren't intentionally, but in a few cases I've heard about a whale can like hit your boat and then the boat may get a hole in it and sink. Or if you're swimming with them and they don't really see you, you might get pushed underwater and not be able to get back up. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I don't think they're intentionally trying to hurt people. It'd just be an accident because they're so big. And then, you know, like their tail, like I said, their flippers can be super long, so they can accidentally hurt people, but usually they don't hurt people. But you probably don't want to go jump on one either.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those things where we might be more dangerous to the whales than the whales are dangerous to us.
Exactly. Like I was saying, the boats, when a whale can hit a boat, but boats can also hurt whales. So the props on the boats can spin and hurt the whales. And then again, like we said, if we're polluting the ocean or leaving trash, that can hurt them too. So I'd agree with Megan. Sometimes we hurt them more than they are dangerous to us.
So Savannah and Leticia, if we wanted to go somewhere to learn more about what we could do to help and learn more about the Arctic Angels, where would we go?
Well, you could actually just type in global choices. You could Google globalchoices.org. You could also email, and Megan, you feel free to share my email and Savannah's email. If anyone wants to write us for more information. But if you go globalchoices.org, it'll tell you more about the Arctic Angels. And we have had Arctic Angels, like I said, as young as 8 to 30. But I know one of our youngest Arctic Angels started when she was 5. And she started actually a nonprofit for endangered animals. And she's amazing. And there's, you know, don't let your youth stop you. You guys can make such a big difference. And just like you're doing right now is learning more about animals and how you can help take care of them. And thank you for coming on and learning today. It gets me excited.
So we'll send you that website, which I put in the chat box as well, but for Arctic Angels, as well as some other resources to use with kids and adults and grownups to find out more information. And the last thing I want to do before we wrap up, if everyone could unmute their microphones, and if we could show Savannah and Leticia some love by making some celebration noise like this. Woo!
Woo! Wonderful job. Good work.
Yay!
Hey.
Cowabunga. Thanks to everybody for attending, whether you're here live or watching the recording, and really just such appreciation to our two guest experts, mother-daughter experts today. Just for everything that you do for our environment, but also for people who want to learn. So thank you for leading our learning today.
Yeah, thanks for coming. It was so fun to meet you guys. My polar bear say goodbye.
All right. Bye, polar bear. Bye, Arctic owl.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, narwhal.
Hey, thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
So cute.
Hi, Caitlin.